We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session for tonight, which is Thursday, August the 31st, 2023. We have already had our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance at our 5:30 special call meeting, so we will omit those from the agenda, but we'll move on with our announcements. And so I'd like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. My name is Rochelle Robinson. I'm Mayor of the City of Douglasville. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion only, and no official action will be taken on these items this evening. Official action will be taken next Monday at our 6 o'clock regular voting meeting. If the business you are here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates for you to discuss your business. Just a few protocol issues I'd like to go over with you, and then we can begin the meeting based on the agenda that is printed, or there are agendas above the screen that you can follow. I ask that you would please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning if you violate that rule. Our second deviation will result in you discontinuing to speak, and the microphone will turn the microphone off. We ask that only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud, react to speakers, speak from the audience, cheer, or carry on a conversation when you are at the microphone. Please direct all of your information, concerns, and comments to the chairperson. I remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during a required public hearing. And if you have any printed materials, please give those to our city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right, with the beautiful red sweater on. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, I ask that you would please put those in silent mode, or if you would turn those off until after the meeting. Now, the agenda items will be handled in the following manner. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item. Then that person representing that agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. Myself and council members will possibly ask questions to help us to understand what the applicant is presenting to us. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There are 20 minutes for those in favor of the item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak. Prior to approaching the podium, please fill out a speaker card. They are out on the desk. We ask that you, before you walk into the City Council auditorium, there are some cards out there. They're green cards. We ask that you would please fill those out with your name and address. And when you come to the podium, if you would give that card to our city clerk so that we will have that information for the record. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. And then, of course, you have the 5 minutes to talk to us about any business germane to the City of Douglasville. Each person has one opportunity to speak. This is not a question and answer format or debate. We're really here just to hear the information, take that into consideration, and make our decision on next Monday. If you have any printed material, again, please give that to Ms. Acker, and she will make copies and disseminate that information to myself and council members. Those are a lot of instructions, and I hope everyone is on the same page, and we can start with our agenda. Again, there are printed agendas outside on the desk, and/or you can follow along with the screen above us electronically. So now we'll move on to committees. We handle the agenda based on committees. So the first committee is Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by City Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no business at this time under the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Finance Committee, chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Finance has no business tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on then to item number 7, Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Verdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Item 8 is Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a couple of items. And the first item is item A. It says adopt an ordinance to amend section 247F5 to change the time limit for public comments for matters other than public hearing required by law. Ms. Hampton.
Yes, sir. Madam Mayor, this is the item that you recommended to staff to bring forth to the mayor and council.
Yes, ma'am. And so for this item, I know our colleagues at the county is 3 minutes to speak, and I believe the Board of Education is 3 minutes as well. And so I wanted to make everything seamless and have the same amount of time for public hearing to give other more of an opportunity to speak. Sometimes if we have a larger crowd and we have 5 minutes, they have to choose a spokesperson. And so it'll give more citizens an opportunity to speak if they have 3 minutes. And so I wanted to, again, make it the same amount of time that is already allotted at the city and at the Board of Education. So I can open the floor for any comments. If we have 5 minutes now, and I was making a recommendation to go to 3 minutes, and those are the
Comments
reasons
from
why.
Council member, Council Estes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say, I think this is a very bad idea. I think we are here to listen to and respond to the citizens in any way that we can. And even though I understand the reasoning that you had for bringing this up, I just think that we need to be as transparent as possible and as open to public comment as possible, and limiting that in any way, I just think I cannot support that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman Watts?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just am clarifying, so this applies to non-public hearing when we allow the citizens to speak like we did a couple weeks ago. It does not apply to public hearings. Public hearings are still 5 minutes per person, or do I have that wrong?
Ms. Jordan, you have made this recommendation for this to be changed for all, including a public hearing, correct?
Because of its nature as an ordinance change, it would apply to all public hearings equally.
Well, for some reason, I thought it just applied to non-public hearing situations that we found ourselves in a couple weeks ago, where we allowed the citizens to speak about an item. I've always thought the 5 minutes worked fine. I know that it's not the same as some of the other local governments, but to Mr. Estes' point, allowing the 5 minutes, I feel like we are letting the citizens know that we are open to whatever they have to say. Of course, they don't always use the 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's still limited to 20 minutes per.
Total time,
for-
20
yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
In the zoning law, you have a minimum amount of time for public comment that is set by state law. That doesn't address how long any one person speaks. So as long as you allow at least the minimum time allowed by statute.
And that is
20 minutes.
20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Okay.
So that's probably the only thing that the state law allows, mandates a
Right.
minimum amount of time.
Well, I realize that if you could have 4 people come and take up all 5 minutes on a particular issue, which is fine. They know what the time parameters are. They're explained very well by you before the meeting. I'm struggling a little bit with it, like Mr. Estes. I think that it's still 20 minutes. So 4 people could take 5 minutes each, or it's a total of 20 minutes. So there could be multiple speakers.
Well, there are many things that, well, for instance, say a plat approval, if there's no right of the public to speak on ministerial duties, so basically there's no requirement for something like a plat approval.
Or the
Other
developer.
stuff, Like you're approving an amendment to your budget. There's no, you're not required to allow anyone to speak to that if you don't want to.
Right, and we don't usually,
So-
right?
Exactly, so you're not, this ordinance doesn't guarantee anybody the right to talk for 5 minutes on any subject they choose, unless they're going to try to do it at the end under citizen comment.
Right, and that's still going to be 5 minutes, correct? or is that changing also?
Everything was going to be 3 minutes.
Everything's going to be 3 minutes. Okay.
That's what they do at the county.
Okay?
Okay,
Listen to-
well, I got a few days to chew it over, so I just.
All right, Councilman Miller,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Miller?
Thank you, Chairman. I have to agree with my counterparts, Councilman Estes and Councilman Watts on this one. While I respect, Madam Mayor, your thoughts on this one, and I also respect our Board of Education and our Board of Commissioners on their decisions, but we are not them. We are the city of Douglasville. And I feel like we have a different layer of transparency for our residents, and this is a platform that we give them to come and speak to us, and I think it works very well, and I'm not looking to change it at this time.
Okay. Mr. Adams, Councilman Adams?
I would just ditto that, Madam Mayor. I would hope that we, as a governing body in the city, would be an example that hopefully others around us would become more transparent. And therefore, as I've told you many times, I've shared with you all many times, I would hope that we would stand independent of any other governing body within the county and be as transparent as possible to our citizens. They're the reason we're here. And if we're here for any other reason, we're here for the wrong reason. So, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Terry Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't mean to dogpile on the issue, but with all due respect, Madam Mayor, I do agree with my colleagues. I won't repeat what they've said. They've all made very good points. I'll only add that I think that 3 minutes can fly by very quickly, and sometimes citizens come to us with some very complex issues, especially if you're talking about neighborhood zoning and commercial issues. It might take a lot longer than 3 minutes to fully to explain an idea or to make a fair argument. So I think that, I wouldn't want to use the county government as an example of good governance at the moment. So I think I would agree with colleagues that we think we should stay with 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Since this is a public comment, do we have anyone out in the audience who want to speak on this comment?
Wait a minute, Councilman Davis, I still had something. I was going to say, I've heard the sentiments of the council. We can squelch having this item. We can pull the item. It's not, I serve at the will of the council as well. And again, it was not to minimize any transparency or anyone's voices. I was trying to look at if we had a large audience for a certain item that everyone would have an opportunity to speak, because there are times when there's 20 minutes, if someone takes up 5, you only have 4 people to speak, and they're trying to figure out who can be the spokesperson, and not everyone has an opportunity to come forward. So I, was just looking at giving the opportunity for more citizens to come and talk about a particular item rather than 4 that you can have 8. But, it's up to the council. That was just a recommendation, and it's not hard or fast. I'm here to hear what the citizens have to say, and we can take no action or take this item away from the agenda. It's not a problem at all. My feelings are not hurt. I was trying to open up for more conversation.
Okay, I want to hear from citizens some comments about this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing
Yes, sir.
us to speak. My name is Richard Siegel, 9905 Ashford Greenway. The couple things I'd like to point out. One is at the end of the meeting, when we have comments from citizens and delegates, it is not limited to 20 minutes like it is for each side in a zoning hearing. So changing the number of minutes does not allow more people to speak. It's been the practice of the city council for years to just stay until everybody's said what was on their heart, and this change would not have anything to do with that. The other thing is the wording for this ordinance only applies to, and it says right there on the agenda and on your attachment, only for items that are other than public hearings. This would not change anything for public hearings. So if you wanted to change it also for public hearings, then you might need to make a change in the UDO or somewhere else in your code of ordinances. But this only applies for those items that are not required by law. For example, right now as I'm speaking, as well as at the end of the meeting for the public comments. Those are not required by law. In fact, when I first started coming to city council meetings back in 2008, the council accepted comments on any agenda item. And when the previous mayor came into office, that went away. And then we had changes in the instructions saying it has to be germane to city business, which makes sense. But that's not in the ordinance, but that has changed as well. We only really had one person talking about things that weren't germane to city business. Hope he's doing well. But, you know, in my 15 years of advocating for citizen involvement in local government, one of the things that I always pointed out was that the city allowed 5 minutes, while the other local governmental bodies only allowed 3. I said, the city is special, the city is different, the city wants to hear from its citizens, and I would be very opposed to any movement that would change that perception. So that I hope you take that into account and do not approve this measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Mayor, councilwomen, councilmen, I must say, I oppose to this. It's just, when something been in effect for 30 years or more, why change it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the reason I say that, because I've been coming to the meeting for 22 years. I've been here over 20 years. And the instance happened where we passed our time to another gentleman. You can see now, it's not full in here. The calculation for last month's meeting would not even fill this room. The only thing I'm saying is, just remember, it's grandfathered in. Anything over 25 years is grandfathered in. The 5 minutes, 2 minutes ain't gonna hurt or make nobody. And I appreciate the other council members saying what they had to say. I mean, I know you're trying to save and trying to get everybody to talk, but it's not a lot of people to come speak their opinion because they are afraid. They don't know how to do it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, City Manager, can you remove this item off of the agenda, please?
Yes, ma'am. We can remove
So we
it.
can move right along? Okay. Thank you all for your comments. Moving right along to item B, appoint Mr. John Dean to the Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority to fill an unexpected term expiring April 2nd, 2027. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Councilman Davis. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. There has been a recent vacancy on the Douglas County Water Sewer Authority, and it was for the city seat. So Mr. John Dean is the mayor's nominee to fill that unexpired term expiring April 2nd, 2027. And there are no others interested in this position at this time.
Thank you. I've spoken with Mr. Dean on last week, and he would be delighted to serve on this board. Mayor and Council.
I did have a comment. I'm excited for Mr. Dean as well. I did have another person in mind, but there's a 45-day window. We tried to look to see if we could appoint after the 45-day window, but the WSA's bylaws are hard and fast in that as soon as the vacancy happens, then you have a short time frame in which you have to appoint the person. So we couldn't wait until the end of the year, what it would make it open for others to maybe be appointed there. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Mayor and Council, I'd like to put this on the consent agenda for Tuesday, please. If there are no other business, I'd make a motion we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
To adjourn, we'll go on to the next committee, which is Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight to adopt an ordinance to amend Section 11-11 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures for the City of Douglasville to add a provision and requirements for annual leave buyback for employees with greater than 15 years of service, and Assistant City Manager Ms. Callen will handle it.
Thank you, Chairman Watts. Good evening. This item came out of a suggestion from Lieutenant Nutter in the police department when the city manager's office went around to each department and had their teams meetings. So one of the purposes of those teams meetings is to give employees an opportunity to speak directly to the city manager and provide feedback, and also for us to let them know what's going on in the city. So one of the suggestions was that instead of being able to buy back only sick leave, could they buy back vacation or sick leave? So we analyzed that. It's not there won't be a budgetary effect, and we do not see any reason why not. So we're asking for you to update the PPP to reflect that.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan. Any comments from mayor or council? Everybody, it looks like a good idea. Somebody had a good idea. If there's no comments, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Tuesday. Thank you, Ms. Cowan.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Callen. We'll move on then to the next committee, which is Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have several items tonight to discuss. We'll start with item A, consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of combining .922 acres, Doris Road, land lot 50, District 1, Section 5. Parcel ID is 00500150115 and 00500150116. Application by Coaction Development Group, care of Jared Cox. Ms. Marissa Jackson is here to speak to us about that.
Good evening, Marissa Jackson, Planning and Zoning Administrator, 6701 Church Street. This address is Zone Neighborhood Commercial. The applicant is requesting to combine two adjacent parcels to facilitate the development of a medical office. Staff has reviewed this item, and we find that it meets the city standards for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We have on page 5 of 6 in our packet an overview, a plat of the combination. I believe this was something that came out of a prior meeting where we requested that this be done as a condition of development of that property. Is that correct, Ms. Jackson?
I believe that's accurate.
Yes. So you see that on lots, 2 lots combined into one for a total of .922 acres on Doris Road. This is the Doris Road section between Hospital Drive and State Highway 92 or Fairburn Road. Questions, comments? Is there anyone that would like to ask any questions concerning this? Anyone in the audience have any comment, or anyone that needed to make any comment concerning the item? Okay. Ms. Jackson, we thank you. We'll take that up on Tuesday for a vote. Item B, consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of subdividing .817 acres and leaving the remaining 10.514 acres at 9557 Georgia Highway 5, land lot 160, District 2, Section 5, parcel ID 01600250019, application by SCC Market Square LLC, care of Chris Revel. Ms. Jackson.
Hello. So on this item, the applicant has requested an exemption plat. They want to create an out parcel on the site where Steak and Shake is currently located. And again, staff has reviewed this item, and we find that it meets the city standards for approval.
Ms. Jackson, with this is just basically for the purpose of etching out the lot where Steak and Shake sits, so it
Yes.
would be a freestanding lot on its own rather than a part of the shopping center development, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions, comments? You had said that staff had reviewed this, and I'm assuming in that review, you've made sure that there are ample parking spaces on this lot in and of itself, that we would not have an issue then with it being something short of our UDO requirements.
Yes, sir. The
Okay.
lot meets the parking requirement based on the square footage.
Okay. Any question or comment? All righty. We'll take it up on Tuesday then for a vote, and we will move on to item C. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Refer to the Planning Commission a proposed ordinance to amend subsections 2.02, 2.05, 2.06, 8.04, and 13.02 of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow the use of shipping containers for commercial activities in certain zoning districts. Ms. Shayla Reed is here to help us with that. Ms. Reed?
Greetings, Mayor and Council. Shayla Reed, Community Development Director, 6701 Church Street. This item came before you all at a committee meeting. It was introduced to allow for containers to be used as commercial uses, and a list of commercial uses were included. We're asking to move this amendment over to the Planning Commission for their consideration and recommendation to you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Thank
I noticed that on page 3, there are some specific uses that are included. Just as a question on my part, is this the limit of all of the uses that it could be for?
This is what staff recommended, but of course, the Planning Commission and Council can make that change.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But this is a starting point then to send it to the Planning Commission for their review.
That's correct.
Okay. Questions, comments? Page 3 would give you, in that second paragraph there, would give you the uses that would be allowable, and this is to refer to the Planning Commission for their recommendation. Anyone? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if you may want to include language within where you specify the usages, because they are very specific, that if somebody, there may be a usage that we may not think of right now, that somebody comes along and that maybe, at the very least, provide for a process they can apply to add, we could add that usage into that list, or as an exception, for instance. Let's say if somebody, I don't know, a bike shop, I just think through the first thing on top of my head, that's not included in there. Is there a reason why somebody couldn't sell bicycles out of a shipping container? It doesn't, you don't say retail generically, so I mean, if somebody wanted, we could at least have a process by which they could say, okay, we can provide we can allow that as well, so.
Okay, I think I understand. Yes, sir.
That makes sense.
Are you saying the text amendment component of it, like amend the ordinance to, well, once it's adopted, are you saying allow for the public to give us some weigh in as to if the list should increase?
Well, I would say allow an applicant, like somebody who's coming along who wants to build a little commercial complex with shipping containers, and they have a bicycle shop that wants to go in.
Okay.
That they can apply to, for, I don't know if you want to call it an exemption or
Special land use permits?
maybe, I don't know if we go that far, but, but some way of, allowing them to get in, because right now, technically, they would not be able to put it in there because it's not one of the listed
I
approved
understand.
items.
Could we not just add retail shop
That
Yeah,
would,
to
retail.
this list? And
that would work even better.
Yeah, because we have specialty apparel shop stores, but not retail.
But no hookah.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Others? Yes, Coach Watts?
Mr. Chair, so Planning Commission, if they approve this, then it goes back to us again?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Anyone else? No one? Okay. Then we will take this up, item C, on Tuesday. Item D, thank you, Ms. Reed. Don't go anywhere. Item D, hold a public hearing and authorize the mayor to sign a submittal letter to the Department of Community Affairs and to the Atlanta Regional Commission for the purpose of submission for review of the City of Douglasville's comprehensive plan prior to its final adoption. Ms. Reed, would you introduce us to that, please?
Yes, sir. The state of Georgia requires us to adopt an update every 5 years to our comprehensive plan. They also require there to be 2 public hearings held before the adoption of the file. And so we've spent the last series of months meeting with our public, having weigh in and having an opportunity to hear from them. And so GMC is present to give us a presentation on the work they've done for this project. And we are asking for 2 things to happen tonight. We're asking for a public hearing as well as a vote to allow for the mayor to sign for the release of the comprehensive plan to allow for the state to begin their review of the file.
That vote now would actually be considered on Tuesday night, Ms. Reed,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. That's
okay,
correct.
that's right. Okay. So we have a
We
presentation?
do. And we have
Okay.
Kalanis Johnson from GMC that's going to give that presentation.
Then we'll have Mr. Johnson come forward, and then we will hold our public hearing as far as comments from citizens.
Perfect.
Okay? Come forward, sir. Thank you.
Kalanis Johnson, Goodwood Mills, Kaywood, 801 Broad Street, Suite 900, Augusta, Georgia, 30901. Good evening, Mayor, fellow council members. I have
Good
a
evening.
brief presentation, as Ms. Reed mentioned, to give you guys an overview of the process and basically steps toward adoption. As Ms. Reed mentioned, we've had 2 public hearings at the beginning of the process tonight. We've had several public workshops for the draft plan. We had 2 in April. We had 2 events that we also included as public workshops, June 15th and 19th. A draft plan document, which we're actually reviewing now and working with the staff on. Public review, that document has been under public review for the last couple of weeks. And tonight, the transmittal of the draft to Georgia DCA as well as Atlanta Regional Commission. For the month of September, staff, we can, and as well as public, we can address the comments that the DCA and ARC will have. And this should be adopted by your board in October. Just a little background of the DCA requirements. You have to have community goals, which we've done with staff and with the public throughout the process. We created needs and opportunities from the outreach process. We identified community character areas, which is a major requirement. Community work program, which is the implementation, how things actually get done. And obviously, public involvement has been consistent throughout the process. In terms of public involvement, again, we had public open house workshops in April. We had 2 events that served as workshops in June. One was a Wind Down Wednesday event and Farmers Market event we participated in. There was an online community survey for a couple of months, also provided feedback. And we had 13 stakeholder interviews from March through June, also provided us some valuable feedback. Your core planning team, which is mostly your department heads and leaders and individuals, I guess the on-the-ground leadership team, we had 2 meetings with those individuals, January and July, provided some very concise and very good information for us as well. We had 1 presentation in front of the Planning Commission. There's also been a project website, several updates, draft documents, and the 2 public hearings, as we just mentioned. A little bit about the character area maps and the purpose. Again, this is a recommendation. It identifies and encourages future growth within each character area. It enhances the character by identifying a future vision with action steps, regulations, or guidelines to actually achieve the vision for the character area. And we had several here, the live-work corridors, we had regional activity centers, community activity centers, we had a mixed-use, low-density residential, medium-density residential, traditional neighborhood, and the industrial. Some of these descriptions were in your previous plan, and some of these are actually new descriptions. Some things that, I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it, such as low-density or the medium-density residential, but there are a few new ones that we, working with staff and with your public, we actually have some new ones. Here is a draft character area map based on what we just talked about, and you see your legend, bottom left, and again, you see those blue lines are indicating live-work corridors where we're looking at staff, and the city can go in the future and look at redevelopment, revitalization along those corridors, anything from pedestrian enhancements, streetscape enhancements, certain residential developments, if you will. We're also, again, looking at the regional activity center area along Douglas Boulevard. Of course, your Arbor Place Mall, mixed use. Mixed use also is over at your tributary area. And the tributary area obviously is mixed use as well as light industrial, major mixed use opportunity there. Again, this is just a draft character area map based on what we just mentioned earlier. How does it get implemented? As I mentioned, there is a work program. The work program is that's where the rubber meets the road, because we talked about a lot of visions and plans and looking at ways to identify goals and objectives. But it gets done based on this plan. I'll show you a screenshot shortly. But in this screenshot, you will see the responsible parties for each action. It will identify the partnerships, whether this particular responsible party will do it themselves or partner with the state, the county, or a particular department, or it could be a private or a nonprofit entity. It also talks about the funding streams and potential grant opportunities. And again, this is fluid. This can be updated as circumstances and priorities change. Here is an example of the work program, the short-term work program. This information came from your previous plan, your report of accomplishments, which is, again, a requirement. You get graded by that based on what did you accomplish from your last iteration from 2018 to 2023. Certain items were either completed, they were postponed, or they could have been ongoing. Certain things that are ongoing or carried forward, as you'll see here, move forward. Some of these are actually new. We had a presentation in front of you all. We started, you guys talked about things such as undesirable uses and all. And so things like that, obviously staff will work to update your ordinance as it sees fit to address certain issues. This is just an example of your short-term work program from 2023 through 2027. The overall work program will consist of the report of accomplishments, which is ROA. Then the short-term work program is what now. Then we also included a long-term work program. Certain items are beyond 5 years, and some of them may be policy-based. They may not be priority now, but it's something that staff and you all can look at in the future. That's a brief presentation. I said, well, I had 8 minutes here, so now any questions?
Thank you, sir. Questions that council, Madam Mayor may have? Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. Good to see you again.
Yes, ma'am.
On page number 2, it has the approval by the Board of Commissioners, the adoption of the comprehensive plan. Is that, are we sending that to the board? That's in October. It should be the city
Adoption, right.
council. Adoption.
After the hearing, after the 40-day review, again, there'll be some back and forth, some comments. Once we respond to those comments, 31st of October is when it's actually due, so you can get your qualified status. And so you'll have to actually adopt it formally then. What you do next week is actually vote for the official transmittal, so it can begin that review.
Yes, sir, but we're the city council, not the Board of Commissioners. That's what I was referencing.
I think that's what you were referring your question to for the gentleman. This should be city.
That should be city. Thank you, ma'am. That's a typo. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I was
I'm
just
sure
thinking,
we-
I was like, do we have to send it to the Board of Commissioners and they
No,
adopt
that is
our
actually,
plan?
that should say city council. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Yeah.
I'm sure we can get that corrected between now and
Yes,
Tuesday.
yes, yeah.
I'm sure they'd be more
Others?
than happy to approve it.
Other questions of council? Okay, seeing none, then let's give opportunity for anyone that would like to speak concerning this item, this being a public hearing. Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and we would love to hear from you. Anyone? Okay, we'll close that portion then of this item and take this up on Tuesday for a vote. We thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. We'll go to the last item, item E, reappoint Ms. Joy M. Bates to Ward 3, Post 2 of the City of Douglasville's Planning Commission to serve a 5-year term expiring June 1st, 2028. Ms. Chelsea Jackson will help us with that.
Thank you, Councilman Adams. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. Ms. Joy M. Banks would like to be reappointed to Ward 3, Post 2 of the Planning Commission to serve a 5-year term. She currently served her first term. It was 2 years. As you all know, the ordinance was rewritten, so the first term for her was only 2 years. This would be her last and final term. In the ordinance, it states that you can only serve 2 consecutive terms or a total of 10 years total.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments concerning this? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not certain if the New Horizons council members wanted to comment or not, but Ms. Bates is doing a phenomenal job. She's doing a really great job at getting the information, bringing it back to the community, and working on the Planning Commission. So I'm in favor of her being reappointed. She's a great asset to the Planning Commission Board.
Others? Any other comment? Ms. Jackson, were there other applicants that wanted to be considered for this position?
Not for Ward 3, so the individual must reside in Ward 3. so
Okay.
not-
Okay. So is there any reason why we would not place this item on the consent agenda? All right. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We appreciate that, and we appreciate Ms. Bates' willingness to serve. We'll have that on the consent agenda then for Tuesday. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have under planning and development tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and we appreciate staff and our presentation from GMC for this committee. We'll move on then to Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business this evening in public improvement and beautification.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to the next committee, Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The
You're
PR
welcome.
Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, sir. The next committee is Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilmember Sam Davis.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor, thank you.
You're welcome. Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight.
Yes, sir.
To authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with Georgia Recreation and Park Association, Inc., and the Conflict of Interest and Disclose Policy to participate in the Georgia Recreation and Park Association, Inc.'s Boost program, under which the city's Parks and Recreation Department receive funding and provide comprehensive out-of-school time services to K through 12 students, and Mr. Bass will handle this.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Watts. Chris Bass, 8830 Gurley Road. Greetings, Madam Mayor and members of council. We are seeking approval to enter into our third year of the Georgia Recreation Parks Association Boost Grant for after-school programs in the amount of $48,100. This is a non-matching grant that is utilized for after-school programs through our partnership at Gateway Village and in the recreation facilities at J.C. Davis Park and Hunter Memorial Park and through our mobile recreation unit as well, providing programs pertaining to healthy snacks, leadership, and fitness for youth. So we are seeking approval to sign this agreement.
Mr. Bass, could you just real quick, just give us a real quick rundown? How many kids are participating in this, the benefit, just for those that may not be familiar with it?
Yes, sir. So this is the third year of the grant. First year, we had about 30 participants participating in the after-school component. As it continued to grow, we grew to about 60 or 70 kids, being able to service them in different areas pertaining to the mobile recreation unit, providing scholarship programs. As you know, a lot of our programs are fee-based, so we've been able to provide some scholarship opportunities through these grant resources to allow families no cost. So about 75 last year, and we're hoping to grow that again this year. And that's just providing opportunities for all of the programs that we offer throughout our park system.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Any comments or questions from, yes, Madam Mayor?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Bass. This is a great program, and I've heard nothing but positive feedback from parents and some students. So thank you so much for providing the community with this, and we hope that we're able to get this grant again as you apply, because it gives young people in the community who may not have the resources an opportunity to play any of our recreational sports and join football or volleyball, basketball, and/or for those after-school camps, especially at Gateway Village, providing after-school programs as well as food. So thank you so much. We appreciate what you're doing in the community with this program. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Just
Madam
have a
Mayor. And Councilwoman Burdanley.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Mr. Bass. Thank you so much for your great work that you're doing at the parks. I tell you, my granddaughters love it. Is there a way that you can have some dialogue with right from the start in regards to accepting individuals that have caps? I know right now they have like a whole new layout where you have to be under quality rating, but I think it's a guaranteed pay for some parents. Have there been dialogue, or can be some dialogue?
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at Ms. Thrasher in the back shaking her head. So we actually have started the process to be able to set caps. There are some components that we have to go through before that becomes official. But what we have been doing is substituting that with that scholarship program. So these grants and some of our other scholarship opportunities can help serve in the meantime, but we have started the application. So hopefully by next summer, we'll be able to accept caps.
Right. Also, for the after-school program, when regular school is closed, do you have, are you open during those times?
Yes, ma'am. So we have an upcoming fall break camp. We have our winter break camp, spring break camp, and leading into our summer camp. So we do have those.
Wonderful. Actually, my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, would rather go to the park than school. So thank you for she loves school, but she really loved the parks and what you all do. Thank you for what you've done.
Yes, ma'am.
And what you continue to do.
Thank you. And Madam Mayor, if I can just clarify one thing, we actually have received this grant. So this is for
Oh, you've
us
gotten
to,
it.
I should have cleared it up from the beginning. Usually we come requesting, but this is the third year of that grant. So we have received the
Oh,
grant, and this is
wonderful.
to actually take the funds. So,
Oh,
yes,
this
ma'am.
is for us to get the check, sign it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, correct.
Make it rain. Okay, thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
All right.
And any other comments or questions? If not, I would like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. That'd be all right?
Looks like it's good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Bass, for your presentation, and thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all we had tonight under Parks. And
Thank you so much, Coach. We'll move on then to Technology Committee, chaired by Mayor Pro Tem City Councilmember Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Technology Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, sir. Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No business tonight.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Do we
ma'am.
have any other business to come before council tonight from council members?
Madam Mayor, I would like to just make a comment on something that we had discussed previously. I know we had talked about as a council once again this year, possibly doing a booth together for the chili cook-off. My wife informed me that we will not be in town this year for the chili cook-off, so she will not be available to do the decorations. I had already volunteered her to do that, and she informed me that that was not going to happen this year. So I just wanted to make sure that there could be.
Without Sandra's decorations, I don't think it's worth doing.
Borrow them, and we can have 2 statues of both of you.
The Witch's Brew, I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Adams. We do have, I'm not certain, I know the city manager is going to give us a update and report about the Town Green Amphitheater, but of course, we have our opening concert series starts on Saturday with Miss Gladys Knight. So I believe that is later on in staff report. So that's the only other thing that I had under other business. I know the chief may have something as well. Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
One item, I think I'd mentioned this to staff at one point, I want to bring up to the city council. I was recently asked by the American Institute of Architects to advocate to the General Services Administration at the state to adopt the 2021 existing building code, which, to explain it in simplest terms, it's designed to allow for cities to better enable them to preserve existing historic structures. Right now, the state currently adopts a chapter within the 2018 code that essentially requires renovations of historic structures to be brought up to exactly the same standards of new construction. So it causes a lot of developers to be discouraged to do the historic restoration, and they simply demolish the historic structures. So the AIA is advocating for the state to adopt the 2021 version of the existing building survey, and I'd like to put that up on to our agenda for the city to actually, we could be jump ahead of the state actually in this matter if we go ahead. I know that the General Services is now considering doing that, but there's nothing that keeps us from going ahead and jumping in advance of that and adopting it ourselves. So if we can take a quick look at that and maybe a study, and the council would be willing to consider that, it would be, I think, to the benefit of especially downtown Douglasville and the numerous historic structures we have within the city to adopt the 2021 existing building code.
Yes, sir, we'll add an item to the agenda.
So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I know we'll talk about it later, but would this preclude the Historic Preservation Commission and what they have for their standards of
No,
materials and all that type
No,
of?
this simply, it would be the same way that if you're designing a new structure, the same way the regulation of the building code comes into account for, that you have to take that, you have to follow it the same way. It would just, it actually is, the new code is actually more flexible than the old code. And that's what has concerned the American Institute of Architects, is that if cities maintain adoption of the old code, that it's going to discourage a lot of historic preservation. So that's something that I think would be to our benefit, to encourage historic preservation and restoration. So that's what the new code better enables you to do. So
Very good, very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Any other business to come before council tonight from the elected officials? Thank you. I don't see any. Then we'll move on to the next item, which is updates from our city staff, our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dodson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Our staff attorney, Ms. Miranda Jordan.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I
Good
don't
evening.
have any business for council this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Our chief of police, Chief Sparks.
Yes, we have I think this may be our 4th year of doing our peace officers for justice and accountability. We'll be doing that September the 7th, that's this Saturday from 11 to 12:30. We want all our people to come out, the citizens to come out to hear from law enforcement and other people to let our community know that we are for justice and holding our people accountable for their actions. So it's just to let our citizens know some of our core values. So we appreciate if everybody come out. We have coffee and donuts. So come on out, and we have some other agencies that will be out there as well, speaking on what they're doing in their jurisdictions.
Well, thank you so much, Chief. We appreciate you having that and your transparency. I've been before in the past, and it's a great inspirational event. So thank you to you and Deputy Chief that we see here in our entire Douglasville Police Department. Thank you, Chief. Our City Manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. As it relates to item 23-347, the legislative and intergovernmental item, that item cannot be removed without you all taking action. You have, I think, two options. You can either vote now, take action in this legislative work session, or wait until Tuesday and take no action. But we do need something tonight in order to remove it from the agenda, if that's what you so choose, or you can wait until Tuesday.
We can vote to deny.
We can make a motion to remove it.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to remove that item from the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved. I apologize, City Manager. It's been properly moved in second to remove this item, the legislative agenda item A, from the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hands? Aye. It's removed from the agenda. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So if you would like to do the staff report, City Manager's updates on plans and preparedness for the Town Green opening. Our City Manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton, has a presentation for us.
Yes, ma'am, and before I get into that, you all will have an agenda item on Tuesday that I just got back from Warren Tillery with Smith & Welch regarding your service delivery strategy negotiations with Douglas County. So even though we negotiated lost, part of that was that we agreed upon signing the SDS documents, and so we have those documents. We've reviewed all of them, so there will be language on Tuesday that authorizes that you all give the mayor the authority to sign those documents. They have to be turned in the DCA in October. There's really no substantive change. It is really the same from last year. Two items that we did not include in SDS will be the library services agreement, because we do have an appointment on that. We do have an appointment on that board, and then the other is going to be the jail agreement, since the sheriff is exempt from SDS. But we will have the jail agreement before you all in 2 weeks, on the 14th and the 18th. But there should not be any changes on Tuesday. All right. So just going to the Town Green, I wanted to do an overview for you all, because I know there are a lot of questions, concerns, some complaints. But want to tell you why we are where we are and why we're doing what we're doing, and remind you all of what decisions you all made to get us to this point. So remember, staff doesn't make
Well, she puts it that way, huh?
She
decisions.
holds us to our own words.
Absolutely. Going back to 2006, so in 2006, one of the first committees that I worked with, actually as a Main Street manager, was an established jail committee that was formed by that administration, that was led by Mayor Thompson. And there were two residents who you all know who Actually, I think they live in the county now, Mr. Jack Tyser and Ms. Dot Pageant were chair and vice chair for that committee. They've been invited to the VIP reception tomorrow, so hopefully both of those will be able to make it. If you all know them, please call them and tell them that it would be great to have them here, but they were the first group of individuals, and there's some other names I can tell you all, Bob Beard, Cindy Lau, John Childroff, former council member John Childroff was the council member who was on that committee. So it was a great committee. I enjoyed working with those folks. And part of the idea for that group is for you all remember, at the time, the county was set on putting on the ballot a SPLOST that would renovate and build a new jail downtown. And that group was adamant about removing the jail and not having a jail in the downtown area. And they were successful in community efforts in making certain that that happened. Part of that, the elected officials decided to do a downtown master plan. A couple of you all were with us, and we hired Mike Sizemore to do a plan. And I will tell you, he brought in some pictures from Paris, and the plan went straight off the shelf. So not many folks appreciated the plan that he brought forth, and sometimes that happens. But in 2017, this administration, you all sitting behind the dais, back in 2016, you entrusted your staff with going through the process of not only internal plans, but external plans. We say it's 17, I think it's more than that, but your downtown master plan was one of those plans. If you remember from 2016 and 17, you all took a lot of road trips. One of the things you allowed us to do was to take you to a variety of places to take a look at how we were going to revitalize and renovate downtown. And part of that was a citizen group working with the downtown master plan that made the decision that the downtown area and a center area where we would congregate would be the first place first thing we would develop as a part of that plan. You all agreed to that, and you decided that in looking at Sugar Hill and Swanee and Woodstock, what you didn't want was a concert venue, but what you did want was a park where you can actually have concerts. So essentially, that's what you have. You don't have a concert venue. You have a park that you are able to have concerts. You purchased a jail in 2018, and if you want to see all of this, if you want just copies of all of your goals and objectives from all the years back to 2016, I have them. I didn't include that because I thought you all would just say, what is she showing you? But that is all written down. You all voted on all of this, including purchasing the jail for $850,000, and we spent over $500,000 in cleaning up the jail. Just a note that in 2016, the jail was for sale for $1.8 million. Some people might think y'all got a bargain, maybe not. COVID delays delayed the project and the cost increased, and I went back to my notes and, well, Ms. Callen reminded me that originally TSW, their designs estimated that the town green was gonna cost $5.9 million. And because we typically create a hefty contingency, we said it was gonna cost $8 million, and that's what we were gonna budget. Well, COVID happened and construction costs skyrocketed, and we're now sitting at it's probably gonna end up being around about $18 million, but we bonded out a little over $15 million. So bonding was required, and that's where we are today. Construction, if you remember back in January, we told you all who the artists were gonna be. We also talked to you all about a completion date in the spring. We looked at May of 2023, and I remember talking to Steve, and we were gonna hit that date. Well, we didn't. And I will tell you, and I think Steve would concur with me, if we knew that we would not be through the major parts of construction in July, we would not be having concerts this year. We would have said we would have had concerts in the spring. But contracts were signed in July, so we are where we are. So staff has been moving forward. There are many of your staff members here who are in the audience who are helping to not only do a grand opening and have a safe and fun concert for our residents, but also open a facility. What I will tell you is that after the concert series in the spring, we're gonna keep everything closed off to allow construction to continue, because we have a temporary CO, we don't have a full CO. So we still have work to do. Did I bring my clicker, Chelsea? Probably not. Oh, you So here's our budget for back in spring of 2021, when we decided that we had to bond out construction. Again, a little over $15 million. So included in your presentation, that covers everything from our construction estimates, our testing, the demolition of the jail, site survey consultants, how much money we pulled from SPLOST, how much money we had in reserves, and we also looked at, pulling in some TAB funding. Again, that was back in 2021. Moving forward, what's complete? So what's complete is our new completion date. I'm going to tell you it's going to be fall of 2023. I'm not going to give you a month because surely when I say it, it's not going to happen. Operational guidance, that's been complete. So your staff has been giving you presentations over the last several months, giving you guidance, anything that needed to be changed, we were looking at changing based on your comments and your suggestions, but we were also looking at best practices. And again, with the goal of having a safe and fun concert, and safe, and I know that the chief will definitely concur with that. That includes a security plan and a parking plan. Operations, so because you all said, hey, we want a park in downtown that we're able to have concert venues, we decided that what we could afford and what we could manage is 6 concerts a year, 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring. I can tell you that one of the lessons that we know we're not going to carry, we're going to know we're not going to carry this forward next year is that in the spring, our concerts are going to be March, April, and May. Having back-to-back weekends is just a lot to contend with, and we're not going to do that come next year. The other is the question of why can't I bring my own food? Why can't I bring a cooler? Many venues operate that way, but one of the things the chief and I and staff have talked about is, one, we've never operated a facility this way, and again, safety, safety, safety. We're operating like a sports venue. So if you were to go to Truist Park, you can't bring a cooler in. You have to bring a small bag. Now, after we get through these concert series, you all may say, based on the chief's recommendation from a security standpoint, this is something that you're willing to open up. But when you're having 3,000 plus people, and we've never done this before, we're not recommending to you all that we allow all the additional items for the police department to have to check through. You do have a contract with Proof of the Pudding. They're very well versed in concessions. They do it for Truist Park and other venues such as that in concessions. So the public will be able to purchase not only food, but alcohol as well. And we just got our environmental health certification. Thank you, Sheila. I saw that email. So again, pushing up against the wall. We are, of course, managed private firm selected by the mayor and council. RCS is here for the next 3 years. I would say not next year, the year after, but within a year of that contract expiring, we will be looking to put that out to bid. RCS is the company that has been recommended to us. If you all remember, when we went to Woodstock, that was one of the things that you all decided, that RCS was the recommended company that we were going to utilize. And we have been utilizing them in a small sense for smaller concerts from the beginning, and they've been a great partner. But again, we will go through the bidding process in the next couple of years, but we stuck with what we knew, considering the timeline and where we are. Also, the electronic ticket lottery system that's managed by Eventbrite. One of the things that's helping the police department maintain that safety is knowing who's coming to the venue. If we were to open up and we had no idea how many people were going to show up, that would have been a security nightmare. And we believe that our process with a ticketed system, knowing who's going to come, will allow us to manage things safely. We want to be different. We want to have a premier experience for our residents. We want to hear what they say, but again, safety, safety, safety. I cannot say that more. We do have rain and event insurance. They're 2 different things. So, and they come at a premium, but we do have rain and event insurance because we are paying a premium for these artists. So if it does rain out, we want to be able to receive the citizens' money back. And of course, event insurance is something that we will carry. Every question that a citizen wants to answer is on the Graythorne Amphitheater, GraystoneAmp.com. So there is a frequently asked questions. If there are questions that are not on there, please let us know. We'll include those if a resident has those questions. We also have a weather and evacuation plan. The police department in executive session gave you all a security plan. The chief has updated those. He's consulted with other agencies and other jurisdictions, inclusive of those who manage larger venues. As you know, in your last meeting, you voted for a security firm that has a lot of experience in other jurisdictions and in other venues. One of the things that the chief mentioned in a meeting earlier, he said one of the things he hadn't thought about that the security company brought up, there will be security on the stage 24 hours before the event. We have very expensive equipment that's been installed. I know Mr. Jenkins just sent me a video today. The sound sounds good, Mr. Jenkins. So we've tested the sound, but of course the artist, she's gonna bring her own sound, but we sound good out. So the remaining 359 days of the year, the town green is a park. It's there to be enjoyed by everyone. The grounds will be maintained by the Parks and Recreation Department. Our special event space will be managed by the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and private bookings for the amphitheater and special event space won't start booking until next summer. Reason, we need to get our legs underneath us and get a hold of what we're doing before we open it up to the public. I will tell you, if someone wants to rent the amphitheater area to do a concert, there will be a lot of criteria that they have to go through in order to rent that, inclusive of doing some of the same similar things that we have to ensure, again, safety. The chief mentioned to you all some of the concerns he had with the mall and those incidents, and we do not want those things happening downtown, so we want to ensure safety and order and for everyone to enjoy the experience downtown. Our due diligence. Staff is trained and certified. Staff went to a variety of training, including training with top public safety officials. They did a site visit with Sandy Springs. As you know, Sandy Springs is a very large venue and a couple other areas. That's been going on all year. We've been advised by professionals experienced in all types of events, and I continue to say Truist Park because a lot of what we pulled has been from that area. All of our security is being spearheaded by the police department. We have support from Douglas County Fire, EMS, and 911. They will have a command center set up, so any and everything that is happening on that site will be visible by those agencies, and we will be able to respond quickly. You all, with your the contract that you voted on, supplemented private security, you all voted on that to allow us to have that. So we will have adequate security at the 3 entry points that will be gated off at the facility. That will be manned by the private security, and it will be managed entry time. So we have adequate security that's out there, not only from our law enforcement to make certain other areas of the cities is maintained by public safety, but also to make certain that we can have a good, safe concert. Parking. We've done a parking evaluation. I think Samantha Rosado mentioned the number of parking spaces. She knew them to the T. I don't know them that well, but I can tell you it's been done. We have parking agreements with both Douglas County High School, Whitley Garner. We've also talked to Rideshare. We have that assessment complete. We've also had road closure information sent out to 420 residents. So we've also given out no parking signs for those who live in the area who need those, so they don't have to be inundated with people parking on their property. And we also have a shuttle agreement with a charter bus system where we will have 17 buses. They're 55 passenger buses, so they're more like charter buses. They're accessible buses, so that if anybody needs that, someone's in a wheelchair, they can park at any one of our satellite locations and have that ability where they can get on the shuttle bus and be dropped off directly in front of the location. There was a question asked, why did we not utilize Douglas County Rideshare? The deputy chief told me that we would have to have 233 bus rides if we did that because the buses are too small. Yeah. Also, this company is familiar with the system. They will be riding around the clock. It's something that they do. And with our bus system, we can meet our time of entry, which is recommended 1 hour to 1.5 hours, and that will allow the people to get into the venue at that starting time when we open up the gates safely and orderly. And the chief said he's memorized that plan by heart, so he already knows it. What's left to do? So we have a special event space that once we realize what the special event space entailed, some of the things that we think that we need to make certain to enhance the experience in that space is to include a warming kitchen and a restroom. The going up and down in the space is not really going to be adequate, so that's going to be something that happens after the fact. Upstairs, you'll see that there are cable railings upstairs near the patio. Now, the glass has been back ordered. Some of you all will go up and you may notice, you may say, hey, this glass looks great. So I think there'll come a determination, and Steve is here and we can talk about that. If you really want to include that glass, I will say, my recommendation is it will never look as good as the first day it's put up. So it will be a maintenance situation. So give that some thought before that glass comes in. We might get a credit back. There are tons of finishing touches that have to happen, and that are left. And so again, we're keeping that fencing up to make certain that there will be uninterrupted construction that happens after this month. Again, Steve is here to address any of those things. The mayor mentioned, and we know, the playground area needs shade. There are metal slides, so when I was in school, you slid on a metal slide in South Louisiana, you might break off some skin. So
That's what I'm talking about.
we don't want that to happen. But those are the things that we're looking at that we are probably going to replace that are going to be after the fact, but Mr. Bass is aware, so he knows, so we're looking at that, and a few other things. So again, pack your patience. After September, we have a little ways to go, but when we open up, we'll be ready for the public. Lastly, this is your budget. This is where we are within that $15 million. Ms. Callen presented a budget to you not that long ago. We'll be back with another budget amendment to address those issues that we have left. But all the staff is here to answer any questions that you have on the town green. I know high-level stuff. They've been in the day-to-day, and they're ready to address any of the questions and concerns that you have, but I can't reiterate more. All right, we have two goals. We want the public to have fun and enjoy the concert, but we want everybody to be safe in doing so. So those are our two goals. Questions?
Thank you, City Manager. Before I turn it over, I see hands for Councilman Adams and Councilman Estes. Mr. Bass, will we replace those aluminum slides? I know that, as City Manager mentioned, and Mr. Steve, you're here as well, that they are just with, and I'm not going to say global warming, it's been very warm, and to have children on those aluminum slides, and they're circles, so it's like an oven, really, if you were to put someone in there, and there are 3 of the slides. So can we put something to say not to slide on the slides until they're replaced, or what's your plan for that area?
Yes, ma'am. So that's part of the replacement plan. So we have 2 concepts that the consultants have got back with us on. That's to add shade to the entire playground structure and to completely replace those metal slides.
Okay, so the shade will, they won't be as warm, because of course the shade will be on them, but if they're aluminum, they still won't be hot?
So we're looking to replace that. So
Okay, so we're going to replace it with plastic.
yes, ma'am. Similar to what you see at Hunter Park and Fowler Field.
Okay.
That's part of our plan.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that. I'll go with Councilman Estes on the right.
First of all, Ms. Hampton, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
You're absolutely welcome. This was even more than I was asking for, so I appreciate it very much. I totally agree that, safety is by far our top priority. I was also very happy to hear you say that, we are starting off with small restrictions that we may, expand later, as far as, food and drink, but that is just something we don't need to have to deal with right now when, for our first time. We have not done this before. But I have absolute faith in staff and the police department. I think we're going to surprise ourselves with how successful this is. A couple of quick questions. One, what time are the street closures happening on Saturday?
4:30 p.m.
4:30? Okay. I think that's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Councilman Adams?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hampton, you and your staff continue to amaze me at how quickly you've been able to pull this together, and I totally respect the decisions that you've made. If I'm not mistaken, our plan originally was to have some test runs and some time for staff and everyone involved to be prepared. And of course, when you have the kind of weather that we have had this year and the logistics issues I'm sure that Steve has been confronted with, I'm amazed that we're ready now. So having been not allowed that luxury of those times, I just really appreciate everything that you all have done to make it safe, first of all, because that's the last thing that we want is to have some issue with that. But one question or one comment I didn't hear mentioned, and I have had several residents that have asked me about what are we going to do about our neighborhood? How are we going to go forward with our daily living? How are you all going to protect us from illegal parking? So the question I have is, do we have a towing company, a recovery company set up on very short notice that we can remove these vehicles that are illegally parked so that our citizens realize that we're there to take care of them. We don't want to infringe upon their pursuit of happiness and comfort during this time.
Yeah, we talked with the towing company and illegally parked vehicles. We're gonna move them out of the way. And I think we have placed and given our citizens in those areas no parking signs. I've seen some of them, so we'll be putting those out. So illegally parked vehicles, we'll be able to take care of those.
Chief, you concern me. You said that you've given out those no parking signs to the residents. Does that mean it's on them then to place those signs, or are we going to be placing those signs?
I think they're going to place them.
Yeah, we can place those signs. I don't have those signs, but I know that that's part of our plan.
They're temporary, they're like
they're
temporary yard sale
Okay.
signs, yes,
Okay.
that we're giving
Because we're
out.
not putting down signs that's gonna be permanent. They're temporary, so the citizens are there, hey, look, don't come park in my yard, don't get on my property.
Okay.
So you get on my property, I'm calling 911, and we come there with a tow truck, it's being moved.
So the citizen actually has a responsibility of placing that sign there.
And that was indicated in the letter that they received, so they
Okay.
know that, so all the
Okay.
instructions on what we asked, so that's part of those 420 letters that they
Good enough.
received.
But I
And
think-
you
Thank you.
brought up a good point, Councilman Adams, on we thought we would be able to have 3 events this summer that would prep us, and it would allow us to have done a lot of the things that we thought we could do. So the restrictions help us to not make mistakes. And yes, you may have someone, hey, I can't bring my cooler, but I would far rather the complaint come to you that I can't bring my cooler than someone got hurt because we couldn't control the crowd. So those were the decisions that we had to make.
And the citizens that lives around the area, they have been contacted and understand the procedures.
Absolutely.
So it's not like Saturday they're gonna come, if people live around that don't know, they've been contacted, they know.
Yeah, so I think in addition to the 450 letters that have gone out, I'm not sure if Ms. Rosado knows or if you know, City Manager, I thought the last count, there were 150 or so, or 175 citizens who've come in to pick up the no parking signs.
I'm not certain how many. I know they're still calling and coming, but there are probably over 100 that have come and pick up signs.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll be able to put those, like little yard signs out to say no parking is private property.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam. And I think the chief may have answered my first question, which was what a citizen does if somebody ignores the sign and still parks in their yard or their driveway, they just simply call 911. Is that
Yes.
adequate? So I hope, just make sure everybody, I assume that they were told that when they got their signs, that just call 911, and if not, we need to make sure folks know that. Okay.
Yes, the information is there.
Okay, good. And the other question is, you may want to explain to folks, for anybody who may be walking to the venue, where the entry points are. That's going to be that's going to be something for people to just know where to go. Because I think, if I remember, there was 3 entry points
3
into the
entry
venue.
points.
That'll be
GreystoneAmp.com, that is where the locations are online, so we have those. So Ms. Jackson, Samantha is going to come up and explain to you, but everything is on the website.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So we do have 3 entry points. We have Gate 1, Gate 2, and Gate 3. Gate 1 is going to be your entry point right behind Hudson's. Gate 2 is going to be the entry point that has the arch that says Douglasville Town Green. And Gate 3 is going to be the entrance that's kind of backed up to the Armory. So the map does outline that. We tweaked it just a little bit today, so the updated map will go on first thing in the morning through Community Relations.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions from council? No
So,
other questions?
One thing I will just say, give us feedback from staff. It'll be an all-hands-on-deck event on Saturday. If a citizen is calling a concern, Chelsea and Samantha are putting together a contact list for each of you all, so you all may know people, get in touch with you. Call our number. We'll be on radios. We'll be in touch. Even if it's something minor, let us know. So again, it's all hands on deck that day. So just give us a call and we'll be able to address. And we'll do a recap after all of the concert series, but definitely email or text or bring us your concerns or whatever they are. But we'll do a recap to be able to make adjustments for the spring. But again, don't hesitate to let us know. We're here to make those adjustments, but again, we're here for everyone to have a good, safe time, and I think it's going to be an excellent event on Saturday.
Thank you so much, City Manager.
For the chief, Madam Mayor, I have a
Yes, sir.
question for the chief. Chief, where are the towing yards? So when someone get towed, they know where to find the car.
Well, it's gonna be towed from private property. We will have the the date, record service. That will be the record company for.
So will it be the local record company or Fairburn, Georgia?
Who's ever on
We're not gonna
rotation?
have somebody from Atlanta come out here and tow the cars, no. It's gonna be a local company, and we have a system already set up with the record service where they pull X number of dates. So whatever date this falls on Saturday, that towing company, guess what? They'll get the tow.
Yeah, so Councilman Davis, there's a rotation of the pre-approved towing companies. Councilman Davis, you hear me? There's a pre-approved group of towing companies, so we have that within the city of Douglasville limits, and so whoever's that turn on Saturday, then that's where their cars will go. Okay, well, thank you so much, City Manager, and of course, coming from a public safety, law enforcement perspective from me, not to say everything, but we do have drones, and there's a triage center that have direct eyesight and radio communication, all of that, so if someone gets hurt or something, of course, you said E911 will be there as well, and the fire department, but they'll be able to adhere or meet anyone who may have a medical emergency.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, City Manager. We appreciate the comments. Okay, now we'll move on to comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting and you'd like to speak to us, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to talk to us about any business that is germane to the city of Douglasville.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi, Madam Mayor and Councilman and Councilwoman. My name is Angelica Esther Pagan. I used to be your receptionist here at the City of Douglasville. Due to some unforeseen things, I just wanted to say thank you for the experience. It's so many different things that was going on where I used to live off of 6415 Harvester Circle. And you guys were able to take care of the roads. Some new things have been implemented, and I have to tell you personally, it is amazing. Our kids are safe, our city is safe, and I like that because within a month's time, you guys were able to turn around the city situation in that particular area for Huey Road and Ellis Street.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have to say that I really, really love how you guys work together as a team and you get this stuff done. And because of that, I wanted to say that even though there's a lot of different things that happened while I was working with the city, I still want to serve, I still want to help, I still want to see how is it that, we can resolve that and move forward. Because I do believe that, my expertise and my time, not only here in the city, but at the city of Atlanta, I did a lot of things. And I want to be able to see what I can do to help, So you have my number, you have my email, please call me. I'm here.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Angel.
You too.
And of course, our assistant or deputy director, Ms. Chelsea Jackson, is over volunteerism, and we appreciate the comments that you've made, and we thank you so much for your time and your willingness to come and want to serve and help in the community. We love volunteers. We have a volunteer luncheon, and we have many volunteers in the city, so thank you so
definitely.
much. It's
Thank
good to
you.
see you
You
again.
too.
Thank you. Any other comments from citizens and delegates? Thank you. If we don't have any other business to come before council tonight, this meeting is adjourned.